Hi, my name is Kevin, and I'm an educator and content creator with the goal of helping people fall in love with CSS. I created this course to explore all the different ways we can use modern CSS to create really awesome websites. In this course, you're going to be learning how to create and deploy a multi-page website based on a Figma design. We're going to be breaking down the design and creating a plan of attack before we dive into the code. And then we're going to explore how we can write maintainable CSS with the help of a lot of modern features. We'll also be looking at how we can make sure our website is accessible, and we'll be using version control as we go through everything, including merging branches while we add new features to the site, and how we can progressively enhance things with modern CSS features as well. Use these modern CSS features to go and build some amazing websites. The other thing I need to think about now, actually, because we were working on our site header and we're going to be getting into more pieces along the way, is the site header a layout? Even though, and actually we could even call this site header layout if you wanted to instead of inner, just to be more clear. I use inner because it's what I've always used, but if you like layout, because creating a layout, that works. So because it is something where we're controlling a layout, the first thought would be, let's put it in my layouts layer, because it's a layout. But as much as possible, I like using my layouts layer for generic layouts. These are things I could just plug and play and use absolutely anywhere. Whereas if it's something that's specific for one use case and it should only be used within this one area, that's where I like actually coming in and creating a new layer. So we'll come in here. I'm going to collapse the base one again just to clean things up a little bit, collapse them all. And after my layout, but before my utilities, because I like having my utilities as the last layer to give it the highest importance, is to do a layer of components, which are just sort of these one-off pieces. This is my site header. I'm only doing site header stuff, or it's my site footer, or it's going to be the card, or other things like that. And so I can do my site header. I don't know if I need to style anything on that right now. So I'm not going to put that selector. We might need to have it after. We probably will. But I'm just going to do the inner right there, throw display flex on here so we get two columns. And you can see right away that they're going next to one another. And then I can do a justify content. Whoops. Justify content of space between. If you get mixed up between the different spacing things, or even justify versus align items, it's the same as a lot of beginners when very early days when you're using margin and padding, it's easy to mix them up. Try one. If it's the wrong one, you do the other one. It's easy enough to switch between stuff as you're learning them, but I want the space between, so it pushes them as far apart as possible. Then we could do the same thing inside there, just for our navigation. I think everybody's used to doing that. So on my nav, I have my UL that's in there. So I can select my primary navigation. And in this case, I'm just going to use nesting because I find it a little bit easier. If you prefer not to use nesting, this selector could just be your primary navigation UL like that. So primary navigation UL, and I can do a display flex gap 1 rem. And that comes together. And Flexbox is really awesome. I made a bobo there. There we go. Flexbox is really awesome because stuff happens when we use it. Everything's going next to each other. It looks really good. The problem with Flexbox is it sort of tricks us into looking like it's responsive. But what happens is when you get to these smaller screen sizes, it just causes overflow. Because the elements flex, they go next to one another, they don't do anything from there, and then we feel like we need to come in with media queries or come in with other solutions. But as much as possible, I'm talking about intrinsic layouts. So the idea here is, with your flex, we can do a flex wrap on that. So now, when this runs out of room, instead of getting stuck there, it's going to wrap and go underneath. And it's really, really simple. The one thing is they do get really close to each other. So you could also put in a gap here, whatever space you feel like is appropriate, just so it wraps before they actually touch each other, because it looks kind of ugly if they're touching each other. And just like that, we have something that works across different screen sizes without having to come in with a media query, decide where a breakpoint is, stress about any of that. The browser just figures it out based on the space that's available. I would actually argue putting the flex wrap on the UL is also a good thing, just so if ever once that wraps, like here, these can also wrap as well. Hopefully nobody of your users is on a screen this narrow, but it just makes it a bit more robust and you don't have to worry about it, which is always really handy. The other thing I'll say with wrap, if you're using it, is when things wrap, the visual spacing looks different when it's between the rows and between the columns. So the visual space between Discover and Mushroom Guide looks pretty narrow compared to the visual space between the Discover and the FAQ, even though it's actually the same amount of space. It's using the gap of 1 rem. Part of that's just how font rendering works, where there's often a little bit of extra space on the top and the bottom of fonts, and there's just this trick of the eye thing that happens. So the combination of both of them, the spacing always looks a lot bigger. So usually I'll use the shorthand here, 0.5 maybe, and then same thing here, 0.5 rem. So it'd be 0.5 rem on the top and the bottom, and then a 1 rem on the left and the right, just so visually it looks a little bit more balanced out. Not something you need to do, but most of the time when I have wrapping, I do find I have the top and bottom wrapping end up being smaller. The only exception to this was if it's not text. If it's things that have background colors and padding on them, then you'd want consistent spacing all the way around. But it gives us a nice mobile navigation without having to stress about it or do anything. I use this on my personal site. It's so much lower friction and so much less work to getting something working. The last thing I will do is just do very quickly, I said we probably need it, site header. You could even do this on the inner, but padding block of 1 rem to add some, just so it's not touching the top of our screen and giving us a little bit of space on the bottom as well. I love Bento layouts. They're quite popular right now. This isn't the fanciest one in the world, but we also have to make a decision along the way. If we look at the design, we have the really small size where they're just stacked, nothing too fancy. It's already working. And then we have the large size that we have now that looks something like this. We could also build in a middle ground. This would be somewhere, again, if you're actually working with the designer, a discussion with them because they didn't provide it for you could be really useful. But if you don't have anything in the middle, then you just get to decide what to do. And we'll build in a simple little middle where it's 2 columns, and then we'll go up to the 3 here. And I think that's my FAQ is right here. So I did the wrapper, and then I put all my cards in there. So I will come right here after my wrapper. We could call it FAQ Bento. You could just call it FAQ, FAQ Grid, a name that makes sense to you. You might be wondering why I'm saying Bento. It's just the name that people give this type of layout because it looks like those bento boxes you can get for food where they have these types of shapes in them. So if you look up Bento layout for inspiration or design or anything, if you want to build a layout like this, if you look up Bento, you'll see all sorts of awesome layouts that use this sort of mixed spanning grid thing. So I can put that at the very top, shrink all my cards down so they're not getting in my way. And then after that last card, close that div. So I have the Bento grid, and then I have these 4 coming in there. If we go back to my styles, FAQ Bento, and we can come up with something fun here. And this is, again, talking about the utility classes versus components that are reusable versus just one-off things. This is definitely like, I wouldn't want to have to build something like this with the utility class. I find it just doesn't work. We know that it needs to be grid because I said so. So we're going to do a grid with a gap on there. And I can see if it's working just because I should get my gap in between them. And again, don't be scared of doing a really big number just so you can see that it's actually working. And at small screen sizes, we're done. That's it. Now we want to come in with larger screen sizes. And up until now, we've been using the media query of 760. So we'll start there. But I have a feeling that we might need to change this. But we'll just say the width is greater than 760. And we want to come in with a more complicated grid now. So we can add some columns. Let's do grid template columns, or let's do the biggest one because we know what that's going to be. And then we can fill in the middle ground after, actually, because I think that makes more sense. At the large screen size, we need 3 columns, is the way I see it. It can be sometimes hard to know. This one's not too complicated. Sometimes you'll need like 6 columns to be able to do what the grid looks like. My suggestion is anywhere you see a gap, just draw a straight line going through. So I see I have 2 vertical gaps, so I know I need 3 columns. I'm also going to need 2 rows. I tend not to declare grid template rows unless I really need them, so we'll see if we can get away without it this time around. So we can say repeat 3, 1 FR, because I know I want 3 columns. And that means when we hit that breakpoint, we get our 3 columns coming in. Awesome. It's a good start. If you use grid template areas, you can control most of the layout changes that are happening without touching the children at all, and just choosing the, just manipulating everything here on the FAQ Bento. So even at the small screen sizes, I'm going to do a grid template areas. This is one of those weird CSS things where I'm going to do it on a separate line, but I'm going to write card 1. And it's weird because it's in quotation marks, and I don't know why they decided to do the quotation marks the way they did. It works well, but it's this other thing with grid that's different from anywhere else you would do things. Card 3 and a card 4. And what this is basically doing is saying I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. The top row is going to have the name of card 1. The second row is going to have a name of card 2. The third row is card 3. The fourth row is card 4. Then what I can do here, when I have this larger screen size, and I have 3 columns, well, I can come and look at that. And I can say, I need my, you're just drawing it out basically. So grid template areas, once again. I like being on a separate line, once again. But now this is where like it gets a little bit different, because I say card 1 is going to go in my first column. In my second column, but in the same row, I need the card 2. So card 2. It's all within the same set of quotation marks, but with a space between them to differentiate that by being in the same quotation marks, it's saying it's the same row, but now I'm defining 2 different column names there. And then we need this third one over here. For that third one, before we decide which card that is, let's go look at the smaller layout, because that's actually my 4th card that's all the way at the bottom, according to how we wrote our HTML, because our HTML followed this layout that's right here. So that means here, whoops, let's go find the layout again. That means here, this is actually card 4. So I can come here and write card 4. And then we can come down onto another line, put another set of quotation marks, and now I'm working on this second row that's down here at the bottom. We have card 3, and then we have the second column. The second column also needs this same card in there. So I can just say card 3 again. And then we're in the last column. We have card 4 at the top. I want card 4 also to go all the way to the bottom. So I just write card 4. And that would be fine. But whenever I do a layout like this, I always want to think of like, what if I took one of these out and added like a new thing in there? Or what if I just wanted to switch the position of 2 cards? So, you know, they come back and they go, actually, Kevin, we'd really like this one here to go here. And like, we're just going to shuffle them all in a different order. I don't want to have to move them in the HTML and then remember which class names they all need to have. So this is one of the few cases where I think the best option is actually using nth child. So that way, whatever order they are inside there, they're just going to get positioned into the right place. And it becomes very easy to do. So in here, I'm going to do an nth child 1, oops, gets a grid area. And this is where it's kind of weird because you don't use quotation marks anymore. You just write grid area 1. Up here is plural because we're defining multiple areas. And we're creating the template of all the different areas. Over here is just grid area singular because we're assigning it to one of those areas. And then, as you might guess, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And now each one of them has been assigned based on the order that they are. And if I did that properly, we should see, there we go. Our layout is sort of coming together. There's some issues with it, granted, but at least everything is going where I expected it to. So these 2 first ones just sit in the top one. This one stretches all the way down, and then this other one's living over here. So here where we have our filter cards, we can bring in that document.startViewTransition. And then in here, we want to do an arrow function with like that. And then we can filter our cards. Sorry, that should be wrapped. No, it doesn't. And then we just close the parentheses there at the end. And now when we come and we filter our cards, you can see that it's fading. Let's go to summer it fades over instead. And let's go back to all, and you can see the cards sort of fade in and out. This will probably be more obvious if I make this bigger. So let's do it like that. And then there we go. Looks nice and pretty. And we have the view transition working, no match. It still sort of fades around instead, which is just a really nice way to enable this a little bit nicer of an animation happening. Now, the animations are fine when they're filtering this way. It looks kind of nice. They fade in and out instead of it just like changing right away. But this is the type of situation where you can very easily make things look a lot nicer. And that's because we can add like some movement going around if one of the elements moves. And that's because like right now, what's happening is, let's say I go to spring and I have my false moral that's right here. And then I go back to all. That false moral is still on the page, but it's like moved all the way down to here. And right now it's just fading between one and the other because the browser's not aware that it's the same element, if that makes sense. It's updating. There's a whole bunch of new stuff there and it just fades everything into place. But I could actually tell it that's the same element and that instead of fading from there, it's actually going to move it from one place to the other. For this to work, every element needs to have a unique view transition name. And view transition name is a CSS property. And it's one of those things that's a little bit frustrating if you're not using JavaScript. Because if you're not using JavaScript, it means you're just doing nth child 1 view transition name, nth child 2 view transition name. It can get old really fast. With JavaScript, and if you are using view transition names, unless it's for one very specific thing, I would strongly recommend doing it with some JavaScript like we're going to do now for all of our cards. So for this, we already have our cards and we have a for each going right here, but I don't want to include it in this for each statement because this for each is getting, every time we filter our cards, so every time I change to summer, we're firing that again because we're filtering through the cards that are there. And I don't want to make the browser re-put all of the names on there every time because that just seems like overkill. So just at the beginning when the page loads, we can have this come on all of the cards and then they'll just be there all the time and it just does it once instead of every time we filter our cards. So we can say cards dot for each. Once again, we just say in here, we're going to say card. But we're going to look for two things. We're going to do a card and the index, because when you do a for each, you can keep track of every time it loops through, and it knows the number that's coming in there. And we can do our fat arrow, our curly braces, and do some stuff with these. So for this, we're going to say const mushroom ID is equal to, I'm going to put backticks here, just so it makes it a little bit easier to write what we're doing. So we can say that we have our mushroom, and then we can come in with a $, and then by doing this, we have a string here, and then inside of this, we can put some JavaScript. So in right there, whoops. So in right there between the two parentheses, I can say index +1. The reason I'm doing +1 is because the first index would be 0, so just count from 1 and go up. And then so that's going to keep track of the ID for each one. Then we just have to do card.style view transition name is equal to, and then we put whatever we want it to be. So again, I'm going to use backticks here and just say mushroom card, and then I can put a hyphen, put the $, put in the parentheses or the curly braces, and then put in my mushroom ID. Nothing should look like it's changed, but if we come and take a look at each one of our cards, we should see, let's put this back on the side, it'd be a bit easier to see. And we can grab that card, and I can see there's a view transition name and mushroom card, mushroom 2. Maybe it's not the best name in the world. It really doesn't matter. So I guess we could, maybe take this mushroom off and just have it as card. There we go. So now we have view transition name, card mushroom 1. The next card after that will be our view transition name, card mushroom 2, 3, 4. As long as every one of them is a unique ID, it really doesn't matter. But you just need them all to have their own view transition name. And then just by doing that, now you'll see that they actually slide around when we're filtering them, because the page is able, or the browser is able to keep track that, okay, these are the two same things when we're going from the old state to the new state. So instead of just doing a cross fade animation, when it does, it actually takes a picture of the before and the after state. So in that, when it's doing the transition now, it can actually move the thing across, which is, it's magic.